good afternoon, everybody, from my side as well, and thank you for coming back after lunch. So Zilka was talking about my suit, and Gustav taught us about McGregor's law coming through the desert, and he says McGregor's law is the opposite to Murphy's law. So Murphy's law says everything that can go wrong will go wrong. So McGregor's law says everything that can go right will go right. So I'm half Scottish, hence the red beard, and I've been panicking the whole time about the heat in winter over on a Saturday afternoon, and how hot it will be, and whether or not I should even bring this jacket along. So lo and behold, we have rain, and I can wear my jacket. So the last time I wore the jacket, somebody told me you need to get a fitted jacket. So it was a while, and it was a Christmas holiday, and now the jacket is fitted. I don't need to fit it anymore. So, joke's over. Thank you, Zilka. So I'm going to talk to you today about beating burnout. Yesterday in my 3 minutes I spoke very briefly about engagement, which is my field of speciality among other things. As Zilka mentioned, I'm an industrial psychologist, which is basically applying psychology to the world of work. So anything human related is the things that I talk on and work in and consult about. So burnout, does anybody here know what burnout is? Yes, tell me.
Not yet.
Not yet? You don't know what burnout is?
No, I'm not yet in the burnout.
Oh, you're not yet there in the burnout, right? You said professional?
Exhaustion.
Professional exhaustion. Yuppie flu. Anybody heard of yuppie flu? Okay? So what happens with yuppie flu, with burnout, is we have really high functioning, high performing people, and all of a sudden it just levels off. It just falls off. So the clinical picture between somebody who is highly engaged, which I spoke about yesterday, and somebody who's burned out is very, very similar up until that point, where they drop off. Now yesterday I spoke to you about the underlying psychological conditions for engagement, which prevents that burnout. Today I'm going to give you 3 strategies to prevent burnout in yourself as a speaker. We have a couple of speakers here. Carl, who just left, who's traveled around the world, has been away for 3-4 weeks at a time, and it wears you out. You have to engage. It's showtime all the time. You have to engage with the audience. You have to network in between. You have to communicate. You all know what that's like. So how do we beat burnout? How do we get rid of burnout? To do that, I'm going to talk to you about 3 things. And I have 24 minutes to do that. I'm going to talk to you about emotional intelligence briefly. I'm going to talk to you about stress, which is very, very relevant. And then I'm going to talk to you lastly about change. We've been challenged to change today. We've been challenged to stay relevant by our colleague Sam Shrute. Karl Rath said that we should have a creator crisis. So all of those things put stress on us, and it causes us to burn out if we don't check ourselves. So starting off, thank you Ziggy for laying out the laws of our nature. I want to focus on the first 2 laws. Right? The first 2 laws that Ziggy spoke about, actually the second and third laws, but the 2 laws of the wild horse. So we heard that a wild horse, when we have a wild horse on our farm, in our lives, it's not necessarily a good thing, and it can cause quite a lot of chaos. So what was the second law that Ziggy spoke about? Is it a test? Anybody?
Can I tell you?
No. What was Ziggy's second law? Right? The first law is, it was the third law, right? You're right. The third law that Ziggy spoke about is the law of the negative, okay? So if I take this pointer here, he called it the law of slip. If I take this pointer and I put it outside in the rain, and come back in 3 months' time, it's not going to be an iPad. Right? It's going to be worse. So our thoughts go to the most negative place first. Is anybody here, and this is a horrible example, has anybody here been in a really serious car accident? What was the first thought that you thought? I'm going to die, right? Anybody thought I'm going to die? And then when you realize that you're not going to die, then you do what Scott's doing. You check collarbone intact, okay? Whatever this bone is called, intact. You know, this bone is intact. I'm alive, right? What's the worst thing that could happen to you in a car accident? Probably death, right? So the first thing that we always think about when we encounter a neutral stimulus, this is important, neutral stimulus is the most negative thing. To illustrate that, if your boss calls you into the office, what's the first thing you think? I'm in trouble, right? Why do you think that? Do you have any reason to be in trouble? We're going, right? That's the first thought, okay? If a teacher calls you about your child from school and says, hello, can I speak to you about, so-and-so? What's the first thing you think?
What's
What's wrong? What's broken? Not, oh wow, she's been elected to the, the head of the class, representative committee, And that just illustrates to us, like Ziggy very eloquently illustrated to us with the cover of the magazine, the first thing we think is, have I got cancer? Yeah? So that's the first law. The second law is that we always think about ourselves first. So Ziggy used the example. Pretty soon I'll be going into my own talk as well. I'm just copying Ziggy. If you take a picture of a group of people, who's the first person you look at? Look at yourself first, right? So our thought first goes to the most negative place. Thank you, Gustav. Say that out loud and please record Gustav.
My wife.
So we can send it off to his wife. Maybe not on week 1 and week 2, but definitely on week 3. So the first thing that we think about is the most negative. The second thing is about ourselves. And the third law that makes this work, the gel that really gets this thing going, is that we're not aware of it. Okay? It's unconscious. So I'd like to give you 3 moves to illustrate that, to help you to wake up after lunch and help you to remember this concept. So I want you to all stand up. And repeat after me. If you don't know, you can always look at Ziggy. So our mind, our thoughts first go to the most negative. Okay? So all together, first to the most negative. Right? First to myself. Right? So first to the most negative, first to myself, and I don't know about it. Okay? We're not aware of it. Right? You can have a seat again. Now, I want you to park that concept a little bit, because I want to switch gears now. And I want to talk to you about stress. So park the emotional intelligence section and let's ask the question, how much stress have you had personally over the last 12 or 24 months? Just think about that for a second. Anybody here who had a low amount of stress? 2. He lives in Uchivarongo. Nobody stresses in Uchivarongo. How many people here has got a medium amount of stress? Okay, 1, 2, and how many has experienced a high amount of stress? For those of you who didn't raise your hand, must I repeat the question? So the large majority here believe that you have been through a large amount of stress. Now there's been a magnificent amount of research that has been done on stress. Most significantly for me by this beautiful lady, Dr. Kelly McGonigal, who is not Scottish. She wrote 2 books. And if you have time on the plane or somewhere, please do read both of those books. The first one is The Upside of Stress, and the second one is the Willpower Instinct, which helps us to improve our willpower for things like dieting and perseverance and all this kind of stuff. So they did research in this book called The Upside of Stress, and what they did is they asked 30,000 adults the same question I just asked you. And I said, how many people have experienced low, medium, high amounts of stress? They then also asked them, and then they followed their life for 8 years, and then kind of looked at death records over the 8 years who died. But they asked them those 2 questions: how much stress have you had? What is your opinion of stress? What does stress do to you? Is it good for you? Is it bad for you? Whatever, right? And then they followed them and they checked who died. Right? They looked at the death records to see who's still alive. What they found was fascinating. They found, first of all, that people with high stress have a 43% higher risk of dying due to stress-related issues or stress-related diseases, heart attacks, cholesterol, whatever. But the twist was that they found that that was only true for the people whose mindset said that stress is negative. Only for the people who interpreted stress as being something that is not good for me. Right? So what they found is that people who were under high stress, but didn't see stress as a negative variable in their lives, who didn't see stress as something that's going to kill me, they were actually the lowest risk, even though they had high stress. So they had to investigate this further. So what they did is they did fMRI scans and blood samples and spit samples and all sorts of stuff. And they found that this is what our arteries look like when we're under normal conditions. Can you see the picture? So it's nice and open, lots of space. This is what do you call it?
Cross-section.
cross-section of an artery, looking at an artery or a vein. So what they found is it's nice and open. This is a very healthy person. There's no cholesterol put on there. The vein is open, the artery is open, the blood can flow freely. What happens when we're under stress? The vein constricts, the artery constricts, right? So there's much less space for the blood to work through. So you have a lot more pressure on your heart. There's a lot more effort that your heart has to go through, which leads to heart cells dying and all of the negative things we know about stress and stress-related, diseases, if you think it's negative, if you think it's bad for you. So what they did with these people in their experiment is they actually got them to reinterpret their stress. So what are the physical reactions of stress? If you're under high stress, I've now gone into the front of the room, I'm just about to speak, what happens? Your heart starts beating faster, your pupils dilate, your breath goes shorter, you maybe even start sweating. Just saying those things is making me start sweating now. So what they did is they said to people, they got them to reinterpret the physical symptoms of stress. And they said, instead of thinking, oh, I'm gonna now fall over my words because I can't breathe properly, I can't push the words out, the shortness of breath is helping your body to oxygenate your arteries. Your sweating is getting you ready for action, right? Your heart beating faster is getting you ready for action. And once they got people to reinterpret the physical, remember these are things that happen naturally. Sweating, fast heartbeat, shallow breath, all these kind of things. Reinterpret those things and to say, listen, I'm ready. Whatever challenge is now coming at me, my body has prepared me to be ready for this challenge. What happens? We have the same picture in our arteries as somebody who's about to embark on an epic journey, or bravery if you like. Somebody who's now ready to climb Mount Everest or stand on their head on stage, like we saw yesterday. So all of a sudden that negative picture, that constriction on our arteries is gone, right? But what they also found something else. They found this. Anybody know what this is? Adrenaline? No, it's a hormone. You're on the right track. It's not cholesterol. Adrenaline? No. It's oxytocin. Any idea what oxytocin is?
The hormone.
It's the cuddle drug, right? It's the cuddle hormone. So oxytocin has got as much press as there has been as a hormone has ever received. So when you Google oxytocin, you see things like this. Hearts and all this kind of stuff. This is what love looks like. Because oxytocin is the hormone that is released when we have physical contact with other people, when we are in an embrace, when we are in a love relationship, when there's trust, oxytocin gets released. So it's called the love bond or the love potion. People have said that we should put oxytocin in the air conditioning and we should spray it over people because there's instant trust when we have oxytocin. You can actually buy that. You can buy an aerosol oxytocin that you can spray and get people to trust you and maybe to fall in love with you. Powerful
Now
stuff.
we know what they spray in the aeroplanes and they say it's for something else.
So why am I talking to you about oxytocin? What is the link here? Oxytocin is a stress hormone. Oxytocin gets released when we are under stress. So in all these samples, blood samples, spit samples, they found when people are under high stress, there's also oxytocin. So what does that tell us about ourselves? What do we normally do when we're under stress? Now I want you to start putting things together here. What does the wild horse say? We retreat, okay? We step away from other people. What does the wild horse say? What's the first rule? First rule is the most negative, okay? This is awful. This is too hard. I can't do this. I'm going to die from this situation. I'll never be able to cope. That's the first rule. The second rule says, I'm the only person in that situation. It's just me. Nobody else is going through stress. Everybody else looks on the surface like they're coping. The Facebook pictures we see, all of the lovely, beautiful things that go on. But the reality of the situation is that everybody under the surface is probably going through some stress. When I asked you the question in the beginning of our talk, 90%, 80% of the room said that they're under a high amount of stress. So Yvonne, what do? We withdraw. We withdraw from other people. Oxytocin gets released into your blood to encourage you to embrace other people, to go towards other people, right? Because it is a stress hormone, it then helps us to cope with the stress that we're under. So instead of moving away from other people, the oxytocin as a stress hormone pulls us together. We talk about the 3 P's in psychology. Anybody have any idea what the 3 P's of pessimism stands for? The 3 P's of pessimism says that a negative situation that happens to you is personal. I failed in my test because I'm a bad person. I failed in my test because I'm not smart enough. So a pessimist is somebody who takes whatever failure or whatever neutral situation and makes it personal. What's the second P? The second P is it's pervasive. In other words, because I'm bad in this test, I'm also bad at girls, I'm never going to get married and I'm going to die alone. Yes? So it's pervasive. One negative incident goes and permeates every single situation in your life. Because you're bad at speaking, you're also bad at driving, you're bad at relationships, you're bad at your job, etc. What is the third P? The third P of pessimism, or the third P of depression, if you like, is that it is permanent. We're never going to get out of this situation. So it's personal, it's pervasive, and it's permanent. Now with the oxytocin in mind, the third thing that I want to talk to you about very briefly before I finish off and give you my 3 strategies on how to beat burnout is change. Now we've heard many times over many different speeches. I actually wrote it down so that I don't forget. We heard Karl Rath ask us to create a crisis. We had Sam Shivuta tell us that we need to remain relevant. We're asking all of you to go to the next level. So we are on a constant change the whole time. Even when Yvonne told us, she said you need to be relevant to our business. You can't just have one size fits all. You can't just have one talk and just do that talk with everybody. You need to adapt and change your product in order to cater to your audience, cater to the need, to be able to provide a solution for them. So change really has two main curves or business study concepts that we talk about when we talk about change. The first one is the S curve. Has anybody seen this curve before? So this curve is applied to product development, market penetration, whatever. You have a stage where you start your particular product, or in this case a team. There's a high growth stage, which is stage number 2. There's a maturity stage where you start cashing in on your particular product, and then there is a decline. And at this stage, you need to do something to change, right? So the second curve that we have is the Kubler-Ross change curve. Now Elizabeth Kubler-Ross did research on death and dying, and she said that people go through 5 distinct stages when they are in that phase of dying. So they go through shock. Oh, I got cancer because my breast stinks, okay? Then we get frustrated. First we deny it. No, that can't be true. Then we say, frustration. Why didn't anybody tell me about this earlier? And then we go through a depression. Oh, I'm going to die. I'm never going to get out of this. And then we start experimenting with different and new situations before moving on to making a decision and integrating into the new normal. Now, in reality, these two curves run on top of each other. And when you zoom in on this final section here and on this beginning section here, the picture really looks like that. So by the time that you are already in this decline maturity phase, there's already a new thing that's happening. There's already a new situation that's changing. So my question to you, when we look at this curve, when do people give up? If you are embarking on a new change, a new career, if you look at that curve, what is the point of where people say, this is too much, I'm giving up? Here in the depression phase? Anybody else?
Frustration.
At the frustration phase, people give up. So you're going on a diet or you're doing something and you want to improve your life. At one point, Ziggy, you're not allowed to give me the answer. There's a certain point. So think about that for a second and I'll tell you a story. So I went, after I finished my studies, I traveled around the world a little bit and we were teaching in Egypt. So my wife and I had the opportunity to climb Mount Sinai. So at the bottom of Mount Sinai, you'll find that particular sign there. But then it starts out as a gentle trip, right? You're on the camels and you're actually going through a valley. So it actually quite accurately resembles the Kubler-Ross change curve. And then you start climbing. And just before you get to the end, you see that. It takes you the whole day. It's Africa, remember, third world, right? There's no lifts and elevators and cable cars and all this kind of stuff. You have your 2 feet. Right before the end, you see that massive rock face in front of you. But they're kind and they give you some stairs. I tried to count them, I lost my breath and then I lost my count. I don't know how many stairs there are. So just to give you an idea, in this next picture, I've tried to do my best to make it as good as possible, but those stairs are hidden away somewhere there, okay? You can't see it very clearly, even if you sit very closely. But just to give you an idea, there's a little base camp there at the bottom. Now there's a guy standing there, it's that little picture that you can see there. So I'll ask you again, where do people give up? Just before the end. Just before the end. Just before they reach that breaking point. Just before they get to the end. They're like, no, this is too hard. You've done all the hard work. You've done everything that you needed to do. You've got all the systems in place. All you need to do now is just to persist to get over the last little section. I found this cartoon and I thought it was quite apt. Between those two curves, there's a dream. Carl was talking to us about a dream. He said, let the dream find you. Then you need to take the leap from the S curve, from the point of comfort, because remember, you're at the peak there. You're at that maturity phase. Things are going easy, your products are going well. You need to take the leap. Then we need to fight the dragon. Right? We need to get through the depression. We need to work through the frustration. We need to climb that hill and help each other to get there before we arrive at the new normal. And then, repeat. Start again. So I want to leave you with 3 things. And these are my 3 strategies for beating burnout. Number 1, reach in. Reach inside yourself. Find that wild horse. Find that negative thought about yourself. Be aware of that negative thought. The second thing is reach out. Reach out to your colleagues. Join the Professional Speakers Association. Join the Global Speakers Federation. Reach out. You're not alone. As a consultant, you often find I'm on my own. I'm there by my client. People often ask me, you're never in the office. I'm like, when I'm in the office, I'm not working. When I'm at my client's site, that's when I'm working. When I'm in the training room or when I'm on the stage, that's when I'm doing my thing. But it's in a lone world there. You're on your own. So reach out. Join with others. Reach out to your network of people that you have close to you. And lastly, remember that people give up just before the end. So reach up. Reach up to get over that last hump. Thank you very much.